So before we hop in, first I'd like to say, First I'd like to say thank you for you all could have been anywhere in the world. You're rocking with us. We appreciate y'all. Shout out to yourselves. Clap it up one time. So the first question that I have is a starter. It's kind of like an appetizer situation. Tell me your name again, first and last name, so y'all could jot these things down, right? First and last name. Tell me what you did in the lunchroom in high school. Yep, gotta think about that. And the third thing, tell me about what you are passionate about outside of food.
I love that. First of all, when I interview people, I always want to know their hobbies because everyone is talking constantly about, food and trying to impress you with all the places they eat and stuff. So that's a good question.
I mean, I try.
Yeah.
It's like my first rodeo.
I already forgot the first part of the question.
Faraday
Your
Sadigan.
name?
Yeah.
Okay, got that one. Yeah.
I've already
Name
forgotten.
what you would do in the lunchroom and what you're passionate outside of food. So I'll start. Again, Sarita Gates. Inside of the lunchroom, I was visiting every table. We only ate French fries, but I made sure to highlight my friends in the basketball team over there, cheerleading squad is over here, Polish friends in the back, track team on this side. So I would make sure
So nothing has
everybody
changed.
was good. Exactly.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. So that's what I was doing inside of the lunchroom. And one thing I'm passionate about is playing with Lego. Hella random. I know you're like, she played with Lego? Get out of here, scram. Yes. So yeah, name, what you were doing in the lunchroom, what you're passionate about.
Amazing. Okay, I'll
go for it.
Ready? I'm Faraday Sadigan, and in the lunchroom, I can't lie to you, this is so weird. This is why I'm laughing about this, because one fond, embarrassing memory I have is I remember there was a Twinkie one day sitting on the floor, all perfectly unwrapped, mind you, Twinkie sitting on the floor, which is foul, obviously, now when you think about it. And at the end of the period, someone was like, why aren't you gonna eat that? And I was like, oh, I will eat it. And so I was doing dares of weird food.
I'm gonna scoot away a little bit now.
It helped build up my immunity. So now here I am. So that.
Okay.
And what am I passionate about outside of food would be, I do a lot of recreational activities such as snowboarding and running and just kind of I like to keep moving and doing some stuff. So I do that. And I also, snowboarding a lot, traveling.
So you can eat 9,000 Twinkies and snowboard right after.
Exactly.
Got it,
That's it.
I get it, got it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so I'm Peter J. Kim. The J stands for Jungshik, which in Korean actually means full meal. It's something I only learned
Your parents knew.
when I was
they
in my
had the answers.
I learned that in my 20s,
Yes.
because there's a different meaning for it. But anyway, lunch in high school. So my high school was a little different. We didn't have a lunch room, so I'd either be out getting Taco Bell or something, which I loved and still love. Crunchwrap Supreme forever.
Wow. Get my recipe for that.
Okay.
So good.
Or I'd have a sandwich I brought with me, and we had a lounge. I'd be sitting there listening to music or something. And on that note, the other thing I'm really passionate about is music. So I in the evenings I like to just sit back, put on a record, and I mean actually literally a vinyl record.
Wait, hold on. Y'all know what vinyl records are? Okay, make some noise if you know about the topic. All right, let's go.
Let me tell you a secret here. If you one advantage to this is when you have people over and have a party. If you have vinyl records, people cannot bleep up your playlist because they can't just get in there and move things around because it's the record. And so and I play music too. So I've done everything from hip hop to flamenco guitar to electronic music. So music's a big passion of mine.
Awesome. My name is Jamie Sire, and what high school lunchrooms? I'm gonna go with later on in high school because we had similar. We did have a lunchroom, but we had you could go off campus if you had a car. So
we could not leave our what?
Yeah, I know.
I'm boggled.
I grew up in Montana.
Right?
I grew up in Montana, so maybe the rules are a little bit more lax out there. But you still only had 25 minutes, so it was this very particular. You had to leave right when the bell rang, get in the car, go, and we would usually go to Little Caesars because they would always have
Shout out Crazy Bread.
That $5 took you a long way.
Well, they had all these, they had like lunch specials specifically for like the high school crowd. So get there, eat really fast, get back before, your next class started. So it was this whole dance of trying to get in your car, get back, and eat in 25 minutes. So that's what I was doing in high school at lunch. And then other things I'm passionate about. I mean, I love traveling, and obviously that's been something, missing a little bit over the last couple years. So excited to really get back into that. But I studied abroad in college in Barcelona, and I think I've been to 23 countries so far, which is not like a crazy amount, but I feel like it's still.
I mean, nobody's counting, right?
I know.
It's 23.
So I want to
crazy.
get, add to that. But yeah, I love to travel, and obviously eat while I'm traveling for sure.
Got it. Well, thank you all for sharing that. And we're going to hop right in. Talk to me a little bit about when you realized you were passionate about food and how it led you to where you are in the world today as far as your place of work. From Twinkies to
Crunchwrap Supreme.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can start with that. So growing up, my parents got divorced when I was pretty young, and so it was my mom, single mom for the most part, and part of our weekly chores as early as I want to say like 6th grade or something, we had to cook dinner for the family like once a week. So I obviously wasn't doing anything super extravagant.
No turkey dinners? No? Okay.
No, but my sister did once. No, I found this Chinese cookbook that my mom had, and I remember the first thing I really mastered was like lemon chicken. I was like frying it and like making the sauce and the whole thing. But I think I really became more passionate and interested and kind of more obsessed with it, studying abroad in Barcelona and then traveling. And one of my favorite things was just to ask what I should get, and half the time did not know what it was. Maybe didn't even understand what the person was saying. But I think that just definitely, I don't know, a light bulb went off as far as just the ability to experience another culture through the food. And then, living in California for 10 years with so much, fresh produce and CSA boxes and that kind of thing, I just got really, passionate about cooking as well. So.
And how did it?
How did it transition?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
You had the round little. You said, "Oh, we're gonna hop in the sports."
Yeah,
real
I know.
quick, and then.
Yeah. So my for most of my career, I've been in sports broadcasting. So I was doing that, and I think slowly becoming more interested and excited and passionate about food. So I started a food blog when I was living in San Francisco, just for me, really just as a creative outlet to do something else when I wasn't doing, concentrating on sports and television and my job and everything. And just, became more interested in trying to learn and master different dishes, different cuisines. And that continued when I was at ESPN. And then they did a massive layoff 5 years ago in 2017, and I was part of that. So I'd already been kind of thinking about maybe making that transition, or at least trying to. I don't think I thought I was gonna jump feet first into it. I thought it was gonna be more of a slow transition. But I kind of took that as a sign, all right, this happened, and maybe it's time to try something else. So I was fortunate enough that I had made some contacts with Food Network and had done a couple little shows, and then an opportunity came about to audition for Iron Chef Showdown, and I got the job for the floor reporter for that season, and yeah, ever since then, I've just been trying to do more and more as much as I can in the space.
Indeed. And before we hop into you, Peter, just so everyone knows, I'm going to be reiterating a bunch of things. They're called major keys. So, starting a food blog for just herself, major key. Peter.
Now I have to think, you're going to be there's no major keys
Don't
that came out of Peter.
I'll get the keys.
No
I
major keys.
bet there's going to be a major key.
I don't know about that. Well, I'd say there's two moments that came to mind when you asked that question. So one is grandma mac and cheese. So I'll tell you what I mean by that. When I was a kid, I grew up in the Midwest. There were 3 levels of Kraft mac and cheese I had as a kid. One was mom mac and cheese, and that was taking this little sliver of butter and putting it into the mac and cheese. And there was my brother's mac and cheese when he made it for me, and that was okay, take a proper chunk of butter. And then there was my grandma's mac and cheese.
All the butter.
And my
She didn't mess
grandma,
around.
experienced the horrors of the Korean War, grew up like, poverty, all that in South Korea. You throw the whole damn stick of butter in, like the whole stick. Yeah, because like, why not, right?
Yeah.
You
Shout
gotta,
out to grandma.
and
Yeah.
so, and I
Grandmas are
remember
the best.
having grandma's mac and cheese for the first time. Like, this is what food's supposed to taste like.
Yes.
This is so good.
This is it.
Yeah. And among other grandma food memories, of course. And the other thing is, so I did, growing up in the Midwest, I thought like my world was Illinois and like would never leave that. And, I went to college on the East Coast. And then after that, my first time really leaving the country in any major way, aside from like family trips to Korea, was the Peace Corps. And I went to Cameroon in Central Africa, and I was in a village there doing public health work. And there's a lot that went on there, but the food-wise, that was one of the main ways in which I connected with otherwise a culture that was like so different from what I knew. And over time when I was in that village, I was like growing crops, like going fishing, like making fufu, grilling fish, and to me, like that was just a really eye-opening experience of just connecting to people through food. And, especially initially, I didn't even have a common language to speak. So that really informed a lot of how I viewed food. And then ever since after that, whenever I traveled, I really saw food as this sort of bridge between cultures, which later informed what I ended up doing, which is when you first met me, I spent about a decade starting up something called the Museum of Food and Drink, and that's really was how I kind of dove into food. I don't recommend trying to start a museum. It's kind of a masochistic endeavor. It could have failed in a lot of different horrible ways, but it ended up working out. For me, like exploring cultures through food is very much my jam.
Got it. So now Peter wants to do my job. Exploring cultures through food, see how those connect, major key. Cool, thank you. My dear.
I love it. I am not one of those kids who grew up cooking with their parents or grandmother or anything like that. I was out playing soccer and running around like an active person because I love doing that, as I mentioned before. When I went to college, I was at the University of Maryland and I was studying communication. And I think for the first time was living on my own and cooking for and with my friends, and I was like, this is awesome. I think it was my sophomore year, and I was like, I kind of want to go to culinary school. I need to get out of here and go to culinary school. And I was like, my parents will absolutely kill me if I drop out and go,
Cook.
change that. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Food is just going to be a passion and a hobby for me. So I graduated, and I was working for a small documentary film company in Georgetown, and the company, like everybody was leaving and like kind of going, doing their own thing. So I was like, all right, it's time for me to kind of make a move, and I'm gonna go to New Zealand because that's what you do.
As you do.
Why not?
Of course.
So I essentially packed up and, well, first I went to Bali for a month, and then I was like, I had a friend from college who was living in New Zealand working as a kayak guide. And she's like, come over and be a kayak guide with me.
What is going on?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad I went first because I feel like following that up is gonna be tough.
So I was a kayak guide in New Zealand. and then I was like, you know what, this is my chance to work in a restaurant and to cook and to kind of really explore that in a real way. So I got a job making pizzas at this Italian place, and I soon became like the head chef and manager like very shortly. Long story short, was in New Zealand for like 7 years, working as a chef in restaurants, and eventually was like, I need to move back to the States. My family's there, my friends, and I'm missing out on a lot of good times with them. So literally Googled, what can I do with communication degree and food, and found test kitchens, and specifically America's Test Kitchen, which I didn't go and work for because they were in Boston, and I didn't know anyone up in Boston, and it was an unpaid internship, and I was like, I'm too old for that. I need to get some money, So I moved back and found Saveur magazine, which was based out of New York, and saw that they had an Ask the Test Kitchen little thing on their website, submitted my resume to them, and they had an unpaid internship. So I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to take.
Nobody wanted you to be paid.
Yeah. I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to take an unpaid internship, just suck it up. And very glad I did. I worked there for about 6 to 9 months, basically like freelance and interning there for their test kitchen, their website, and eventually I was really lucky that people, it was like right place, right time. And also, I have to also say, I'm like, not right place, right time. I'm a talented person, and I was offered a job there eventually,
You're
right?
ready. Stay ready so you don't gotta get ready.
Yeah.
I did.
And
I'm
so,
clapping up for that.
yeah,
One
you
time.
gotta
Yeah.
recognize yourself, and
Let's
that
go.
it's not, you're not lucky. Like, you have to work hard for things, and people recognize your talent. And so I was hired by them and worked there. Anyways, that's how I got into like food media and doing all of this stuff. And then eventually came over to Munchies. So I've been at Munchies for 6 years.
Hey, Munchies.
Yeah.
Cool. Third major key, Google. Be prepared. And so I'm looking down because I have a list of questions on my phone. But the beautiful thing about being a moderator is that I feel like I'm a rapper sometimes. And so I'm like Jay-Z right now, getting a download of my next question. And so being that you all mentioned travel, and we live in, I'm a New Yorker, born and bred. So the greatest city in the world.
Yes.
Sorry for folks who are not New Yorkers, but welcome if you have joined us. How can young people in particular take advantage of the city, right? Whether it's going and finding amazing things to eat, whether it's finding community inside of food. Like, what are some recommendations? Because everybody might not necessarily have access to New Zealand or pick a country. You know what I'm saying? And so the beautiful thing, especially living in New York, and I'm from Queens, South Jamaica, Queens in particular, but Queens, we have other things outside of airports, like every group of people that you can imagine. And so Queens, I'm grateful that we have kind of like the best food, like whatever you can think of. You could be like, oh, we want Korean tonight? Cool. We want some sushi? Cool. We want sake and owlfish? Cool. Like, we just have options. So what might you all recommend as far as what young people can do to get tapped into the food culture, again, whether it's tasting it, whether it's creating a community inside of it, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump in right there. I think for me, living in New York, I've lived here for 10 years now, and yeah, I think that New York is one of the most exciting and fascinating food cities in the country, as you said. And what I've done in the last 10 years is all the time, I will pick like a day on the weekend or whatever, and I'm like gonna go and explore a different neighborhood. You should see my phone. On my Google Maps, I literally star everything. And so also, I don't know how people lived before they had Google Maps. Can we just be honest here? I would be lost. I would be somewhere else. I don't
Printing
even
out
know.
MapQuest.
You know? Yeah. Printing out the directions.
Yeah, and don't cross state borders where you have to drive 5 and 6 hours, walk around with 30 pages of directions.
And if you take a wrong turn, then good luck.
Yeah.
But I think that, picking a little neighborhood, and I love to just like go there and explore and like dig in and just like star the places and just, I'll do like a food tour of like a different little neighborhood all the time. I still do it. My friends will be like, when are you gonna take me on a little like food tour of, whatever the neighborhood is?
Place,
yeah. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So that's, I think utilizing your Google Maps and making sure and just like, and like people recommend things to me and I like will heart it and star it and go there and just like make a mission and just enjoy, I don't know, just jump my bike and go out there and go for it.
Okay. So being outside.
Yeah.
Great. Another major key tonight of this evening. Peter.
Yeah, I think similar note, when folks ask me for recommendations about like food in New York City, I always say, New York has great fine dining, but like a lot of cities have great fine dining. The thing that New York City's superpower that like no other city has quite to this degree is the fact that we have all of these cultural enclaves all around the city. So I find that to be really the most extraordinary aspect of eating in New York City. And so similarly, for me, like, you're in this city that has this, like you really, like it's a shame to not tap into it. And so yeah, going into different neighborhoods, going for walks and like just let your like senses guide you. Don't necessarily look at like a guide to tell you where to go, and just go for a walk and let your senses guide you. Look at like the bakeries, the markets, and go into places just where the spirit moves you. You might have some bad food, but like it's unbelievable though that the extent to which you can immerse yourself into a culture within New York City, and then take that opportunity as a way to sort of pique your curiosity and learn about those cultures. And I do think that, and look, this is my bias, and maybe it's combining hope with a prediction, but like I hope that food content is going to ever move in a more meaningful direction. And for that to happen, I think people have to become ever more fluent in understanding how cultures translate themselves into food. And the more cultures that you start sort of like understanding that about, then the more you kind of start seeing the sort of matrix, you know what I mean? And so I think it's just a really good exercise, and New York City is just like such a wonderful place for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo what the two of you guys just said, but I feel the exact same way. I think New York is truly one of the only places where you can go travel to all of these different countries just on a subway. And I think that that's another important thing to note. You know, this is obviously a very expensive city, we all know that, but how amazing is it that you can jump on a subway for less than $3 and go anywhere in New York and discover these different neighborhoods. You know, I have a couple of other, you know, food friends that are in the space, and that's one of my favorite things to do with them. We'll be like, you know, a couple weeks ago, we went to Sheepshead Bay, and we were having, you know, Turkish food and all these different, you know, things that I had never had before. You know, we'll go to Jackson Heights and have, you know, Tibetan momos. And, you know, as you were saying, like, Queens has so many different options and so many different opportunities to explore, you know, all of these different cuisines. And like you said, just do it. Like, go out and do it. And whether that's researching it ahead of time and knowing what you want, or just walking into some place that smells good or looks interesting, I think is really like something that no one has in the rest of the country. I don't think you can really do that so easily, especially with public transportation too.
And can I just note, just like one way I like to do it, I think is really fun, is get a group of people, and you don't want to have like too big of a group, but like 4 people is a really good size. Have everybody pony up like cash right at the beginning, and one person's the brain. And you know, everybody gives like $40 or whatever, like $20 and something, like it's plenty to get you through a whole day. And then you just like let that person guide, and you just like pick, you know, go places and then I don't know. And I find that to be a really like great way to explore.
I agree. That's exactly what we do. I think that's the best way to do it. And you can eat for, you know, maybe $20, and you have so much food. You bring it home too, and I think that's an important note to survive an expensive city like New York. Yeah, of course we can go out and splurge on a dinner here and there, but I think you know, you can not only save money but really experience like so many different cultures and different types of food that maybe you've never tried before.
So when New York is deciding whether it wants to be 95 degrees outside or 15, you and a group of friends might want to go outside and play.
Exactly.
Indeed. So, you know, driving this into food media in particular, right? So one of the reasons why me, my best friend Ashley, kind of like a crew of us started Yo Stay Hungry was because I had a problem. It was like, hey, I think food and hip hop match all the time. Like, duh, I can give you 9,000 hip hop lyrics that mention food now. And so I felt like at that time, young people didn't have access. Like, young people want to cook since the beginning of time, right? But to combine it, what felt unique, and it felt like, duh, like, why does this not exist, right? Hip hop, food, culinary competition, like, yeah, rap, beef, get it? Culinary competition, get it?
But what is beef?
So essentially, Yo Stay Hungry was born out of a problem that I had. And so as the young people or the adults or grandparents here today are thinking about how they hop into the food media space, what skills might you recommend or what problems might you recommend they solve? That was a brolic question. That was like really big. So give me the answer to solving the problem in food and media today.
Wow. I wish we could solve that today.
I know, right now on the panel, like, what y'all did yesterday? You know, solve the food and media crisis. No biggie.
Oh, man. Wait, what was the actual question?
So the actual question, one, what are some skills, as young people think about what they want to do inside of food and media, what are some skills that they might want to keep in mind? Or what is a problem that maybe you all are having in your jobs that you recommend them solving for?
I mean, I think as far as skills specifically, I think writing is super important, and that, you know, that maybe that comes from more of my, you know, journalism and broadcast background. But one of the things, you know, I think a lot of people assumed was that you just had people writing things for you, which is not the case in most of the time. So I think, you know, really honing those writing skills is super important. And a lot of things are short form these days on social media. It's a short caption or a short little voiceover maybe for a video you might be doing. But I think writing's important. I think learning how to create content with your phone. I'm sure all of you have done that and know how to do that. But I think really becoming proficient at that, because the phone is such an amazing, especially the ones we have now are amazing for capturing moments, whether it's photo or video. My boyfriend's a photographer, and people ask him all the time, what camera should I get? What should I do? And he's like, get really good at taking photos on your phone, because that's how you kind of grow and learn and kind of figure out things that you like and styles you like and maybe edits that you like. But obviously, so much of, I'm sure, what all of us do is social media. It's on our phone. And I think really learning all of those skills can really help you, in whatever job you might have along the way.
Got it. And before we go into Peter, does everybody know what creating content means on your phone? Like, raise your hand if you're like, yep, creating content, I understand what they mean. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure everybody is on the same page.
That's a good point.
Appreciate it.
I know. Sometimes I forget that I just assume that.
Because you might be like, content on my phone? Am I texting my grandma? Like, what am I doing? So cool. Photos, videos, et cetera, et cetera.
Editing, yeah.
I mean, if you take a picture of your text with your grandma and post it, then you have
That's
creative
content.
Then you have
Content.
content.
That could be a
Word.
TikTok right there.
Can somebody just start a food grandma post?
SMS.
We just talked about that so
Yeah,
Right now,
feeling that.
Instagram, start
Yeah.
it tonight.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think I would give kind of more meta level advice. So something I often tell folks is a couple things. One is always keep your eyes on the sort of negative space. So when you see that the field is crowded in one direction, look elsewhere. And so, that can apply for everything, right? But like in the terms of just making content, if you see everybody doing cheese pulls, like don't do cheese pulls. Like find something else, right? If you see it's really like trying to find that sort of unique angle, and when you see that there is nothing there, then you see there's an opportunity. Then another thing is I just say, think about your superpowers, right? Like, what is it, the thing that comes absolutely naturally to you, that you excel at, that nobody can touch you on, or at least you feel that you can really get somewhere with. And I think finding that superpower and the Venn diagram with where there's still something that needs to happen, that I think is really where you want to aim at. And then the other thing I'll say is, the good path is often the hard path. Because if it were easy, everybody would be doing that. And so that's something that I always told myself when I was getting the Museum of Food and Drink off the ground. I was like, it's so hard, it's so hard. And the team would be like, it's so hard. And I'd be like, listen, it's hard because it's what we need to be doing, right? There's a reason why something like this doesn't exist yet. That hasn't been done at this level of quality, with this level of thoughtfulness. And it's precisely because it's hard, and it will happen, and we will be the ones to do it, because we are the ones who are crazy enough to take that on. And so that's something I think when you find that it's getting too easy, then you have to kind of question what you're doing.
Yeah, I think piggybacking off that, one thing I think that I've learned in my career is that I don't know why I said it like that, but there you go. One thing.
You have a career?
I know, what? I think that I've one thing I really appreciate in other people and that I do is just kind of, I'm not saying you should do this because it's not a great idea, probably this is bad advice, but being able to kind of do a little bit of everything, not that you need to, but that helps you understand the people that you're working with. And so that being able to understand, know how to take photos and do videos and write, and cook, all of that stuff will help you understand the people you're working with, your colleagues, and what they're doing, and then their struggles, and then help you to be able to work better as a team within your job, the people you work with. So I think, and when I'm hiring people, I want somebody I have a very small team, and I want people who have really good positive attitudes. This is just generic stuff, I want positivity, I want collaboration, I want initiative. People who can work independently as well as collaboratively, though, also. I think that's something you have to balance. And being able to kind of know about all of that stuff will help you be able to work with other people in the end.
Yeah. Can I like just jump in on that too? I love that you said that because, you know, I'm definitely like dating myself when I say this, but you know, I came up in broadcasting for a time where, you know, your first job, you're shooting all of your own stuff with like this massive camera, and especially shooting sports highlights was always, you know, a struggle. And I would get the joke all the time, like, "Where's your camera guy?" I'm like, "You're looking at her."
All purpose.
But yeah, but I think I'm so thankful for those experiences because you know, nowadays I feel like you don't have to necessarily do that. I mean, there's still a lot of those jobs, and a lot of that path can still go the same way that I did. But you know, there's definitely more opportunities and avenues for you to go without having to do that. But I personally am so thankful for it because I appreciate those jobs so much more. And now that I have a lot of times have people, you know, helping me do all those things I used to have to do all by myself, you respect it, you appreciate it, you understand where they're coming from. And then kind of going back to my comment about, you know, creating content on your phone, you know, I think back to when I had to edit all of my own stuff back then. And it's different now, and it's more advanced, and you can do it on your phone, but the basics are there, and having learned that, you know, so many years ago, I think has really helped me be able to do that in a different way now.
Got it. And just even thinking about today's times, like some of you might be in college, some of you might be in high school, some of you might be like, school is not for me, which is also cool. For those that are interested in getting jobs and or careers in the industry, what recommendations might you all have? So I'm a firm believer. I'm like, you don't gotta go to school. Just do the thing, right? Like do the thing that you feel is missing, whether you are in school, whether you are not in school, and then you can leverage that, right? Because then if somebody says, hey, yes, we want to work with you, but you don't have experience, you literally created the experience that you would need to get yourself in a building. So what might you all recommend for folks, again, if they're in school, if they're not in school, but know they want to be in food media?
I mean, I'll just say that for me, like, I mean, I got my start in food media in a test kitchen, and I was an intern, and I have so many interns that come through my doors now, and a lot of them are interns. Like, I actually fought really hard when I started at Vice to make sure, originally you had to be in school in order to have an internship at Vice, and I was like, no, we are canceling that. That's different for my
Wait,
people.
hold on. Y'all hear that out there, right? So if you are not in school and trying to get down with munchies,
Come on and see me.
y'all know what time it is.
Yeah, I mean, I fought really hard because I was just like, you know, when I got my internship, you know, I was not in school, and I wouldn't have, like, it opened a lot of doors for me. And that on that same token, I do have a lot of kids, though, we get from culinary schools, and I'm also like, you don't need to go to culinary school. It's fine.
Say that a little louder.
You do
for the
not need to
people.
go to culinary school. It's a lot of money, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of money. And, like, go out. You're going to get, like, the kids I have who have restaurant experience over culinary school are 9 times out of 10 better. Better chefs, better working in, again, teamwork, you know? They know what's up. They've, like, have that experience, that, like, real experience. And, like, I'm a self-taught chef. I didn't go to culinary school, and I got my culinary certifications that I got as, you know, an apprentice. Like, I had to get those in order to get my visa for living in New Zealand. But, you know, you don't need to go to culinary school. Like, getting that real world experience in a restaurant or whatever, or just like go and be, you know, an assistant for a food stylist. Like, go work with those people. Like, go do that, and take the unpaid, like, roles too. Like, again, wouldn't be where I am if I didn't take that unpaid internship, you know? I highly recommend that. I don't think that you need necessarily to go and spend another $30,000 at culinary school to do what I do anyway.
Got it. Good. Thank you.
Right now I work at Pinterest, and so I run our U.S. content and creators strategy. And so I'm not exactly like in food media per se, though we work with a lot of creators. And so I would just speak from that perspective. And I'd say, you know, when we're thinking about building out the team, you know, the people we want to hire, certainly they have to have some experience with being creators, because you want them to have empathy with the people whom we're working with. But we're not like looking for the best creators to bring onto the team. Like, we're actually looking for people who have a particular set of skills that we're looking for to bring onto the team. And it's not actually like you make the best food videos. So in that case, there's like, it just depends on the roles. In some cases, we want people who understand like metrics and content and can really have like a real deep understanding of that is exceptional. Or an understanding of industry trends
I'm sorry,
and
hold
content.
on. Metrics meaning data. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have 90 million likes. You have 1 comment.
Yeah.
Red flag.
Right. And then, understanding industry trends, like not where content is now, but where it's going to be. And so, I think it's sort of these like more like meta, like strategic skills that we're looking for, and when we're like looking to hire a team. And then certainly we have like people, at least at Pinterest, I don't know if it's like this at Instagram, TikTok, or elsewhere, but we actually hire people with industry expertise. So when like the person who does like our lifestyle content, like, he was like, that's what he did for like his whole career. It's like he gets like lifestyle.
That's
Yeah. And so I think definitely looking for people with actual like significant like expertise in they know how to do.
That thing.
Can I cuss? To do stuff. Yeah,
Get
exactly.
crazy.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
get
exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Also, I feel like I have to say that we pay our interns, just FYI.
There you go.
I feel like I was like, I'm saying so much. I was an
never
unpaid
talk
intern,
about
but
interns. We
we
like
pay.
that.
You should be,
Yes.
Like you should be getting paid. Like take the free gigs when you can too that aren't paid, but like when you get paid,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I did not get paid in my internships
Yeah.
either, but I would.
Different laws now, I think.
No, I think it's much different. And I did have to be, it had to be an official internship for them to even have me working at the station that I worked at. But I would say, yeah, get involved as soon as you possibly can. School was non-negotiable for my mom. Like, I was going. That was not even a question. But I learned more like real skills for what I do and what I've done in my career during my internships, because you can only learn so much in school. And I will say, I went to Washington State, great broadcasting program, and in your upper level classes, you were doing newscasts every night. So you had like deadlines, you were writing, you would rotate between anchor and weather and sports and producer. So there was a lot of like real world experience at school, but that wasn't until your junior or senior year. So we had a student-run TV station that you could pitch shows, try out. So I did that as early as I could. I did an internship, I think after my sophomore year or freshman year, back in my hometown in Great Falls, Montana. And I learned so much doing that because it was such a small market. And it was easy for me because it was home. So that, was a little bit more of a unique situation, I would say. But the second summer that I came back and did another internship, my news director called me in like early on that summer and said, so we're gonna start paying you because you're
Yes!
Yeah, because
Finally!
it was only he only paid for half my hours, but still. But because I was doing so much work, like I would come in the morning, my name would be on the board for like my assignment for the day. I was like a regular reporter. I was just in college at the time. So I think those experiences definitely set me up way better than any of my classes did, for sure. So I think any way you can get involved, whether it's at school or with an internship, the earlier the better. I think just soak all of that up and want to be, just be hungry, for lack of a better term, to
Nailed it.
to learn and get all those experiences, and also because maybe that's not what you want to do. Maybe you figure out that you want to do something completely different, and the earlier you know that, the earlier you can start doing the other stuff,
100%. So yes, do all of the things. Cause you like, yeah, I love food. You getting food, be like, I don't want to eat another thing ever in life. No, but to your point, you absolutely, through these experiences, whether it's traditional and or yours created, figuring out what you actually want to do, and then being like, I'm good at these 4 things, these 9 things, I don't want no parts in, which I feel like is also good to know. So this is going to be my last question before I hand it over to you all, and hope you all have some amazing questions, which I know you will. One, shout out to the Center for Communication, just because they are so tapped. Y'all can clap it up for them. Absolutely.
Yes.
100%. Because they are so tapped in with not only the events, sometimes the email is like whoosh, just because it's a plethora of content. And I can already tell the type of people you are in the world because you have already shown up. right? You're like, hey, I'm interested in the thing. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna meet some people, and it's gonna be a good time. So shout out to you all for doing that work already. And so my last question, often, inside of these jobs and or careers, we talk about skills a lot. But I know the work that we do in the Gates Preserve, Yo Stay Hungry, ours is value aligned, right? Like, it's easier to get on the team if we know we have the same values. We value gratitude. We value being of service. We value legacy, et cetera. So when you are thinking the type of people that you want for your teams and or if your friends are looking for teams as well, what are some values that you're looking for that have nothing to do with the skills? Like, you want them to be a good person and not a jerk.
I like bad people.
If you identify as a bad person, holla at people.
I mean, honestly, I'm actually interviewing for a test kitchen associate. So
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
For the people in the back, we are interviewing for an associate.
I mean, seriously, these jobs don't come along very often.
Yes.
All right, I see you. But one of the main question, not the main, I ask a lot of questions, but one of the things that I find to be really important is what you asked us, like, what are your hobbies outside of food, Like, I want to know, because I think that says a lot about a person, what they're doing in their spare time. Like, how are you filling your spare time, Are you just like, you could just be so, like, maybe spending time with your family and friends is really important to you and, like, doing that kind of stuff. Are you, volunteering? Are you snowboarding? Are you, doing music? Like, I want to know, because I think that says so much about a person, what they value. Like, what are you valuing? And then, like, I want to know, like, okay, like, that's cool. Like, I value that too. And I want to know that, like, we're aligned on that and, like, that you're not just, like a food kind of robot, I guess.
So having some hobbies, doing some things on the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Bad person.
There you go.
Peter.
And also be involved in your community, I think, is like honestly an important kind of thing. Like, I mean, in some way, like, do something. I think the last couple, you do something. You can do it. I don't know. I know it's like people don't have a lot of time to do a lot of stuff for your community, but like, you should, and try it. Try it out.
PSA
back.
from the mayor's office.
There you go. So I'll let you in on a little secret. So when I interview people for jobs, I'll ask particular questions, but the information I'm actually looking for is not the actual answers to those questions. I'm actually probing for values or these sort of underlying traits. And so I would say that, yes, I do like good people. But in addition to that, of course you want somebody who will work well with the team and whatnot. But I would say two things I would add to that is I look for people who are willing to take risks, first of all. Smart risks, not stupid risks, but like, calculated risks. But you can't really accomplish great things without taking risks at some point. And risks also means you fail at some point, because that's what a risk is. If there was no chance of failure, it's not a risk. And so I think taking risks, being able to take risks is one thing. And I'm saying this for my particular case. That might not be you might not want to like hire a doctor who does that. I don't know. But in something like this, where we're trying to at Pinterest, we're trying to build this sort of new content system. And so the other thing, though, and this is really important, I think, for anybody in any profession doing anything, is the ability to learn from failure. And that is just,
Wait, say that one more time.
The ability to learn from failure.
The ability to learn from failure.
Yeah.
Major key.
Because to me, it's actually one of the most important qualities that anybody can have. And with the people I manage and whatnot, I never really cared that. You do care at some point, but don't care that much if you miss a goal. What matters is how somebody kind of processes that and what they do about it going forward, right? And so when you see that there's I don't want people on the team who are going to experience failure and then be KO'd, right? Or just refuse to see that they failed, or not try to draw some lessons from it. You want somebody who's okay, this failed, that sucked, but now, here's what I'm learning from that, and here's how I'm applying this to the next thing. And I think that's just such an important quality.
And communicating that, right? So they could fail and hold it all in, and you might not know that they have learned lessons, but hey, Peter, this sucked. Sorry, I feel crazy. But here are the 9 things that I learned from
There
doing
you
the
go.
sucky thing.
And in that is also accountability, because you're actually owning the fact that you failed. And that's a hard thing to do. I mean, that's something that's easy to say you'll do, but then in the moment when you've actually failed,
Yeah. Because you're still feeling all the feelings.
you're feeling all the feelings, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I do think, like, yes, being a good person. Like, I think at the very base, like, that's so important. And I think, you know, from that, like, being a person that other people want to be around. You know, especially working, you know, in front of the camera for so long. One thing that I always noticed was how certain, you know, talent or personalities would treat people that weren't on air. You know, how are you treating the camera people, the producers, the PAs, people putting on your
And
mic?
what's a
PA? Production assistant. But yeah, and there were some people that never remembered any of those people's names, or just was rude to them. I just think that says a lot about the person and how you're going to, you know, be to interact with, you know, on any level, whether that's, you know, again, like on camera or just in a meeting or, you know, trying to collaborate with someone. I think that that's super important. And, you know, it's funny that we were talking about, you know, we started off by talking about our hobbies, and for me, that the answer to that question was always cooking. You know, because I did sports and TV for so long that was my answer to that question, you know, previous to 5 years ago. And I'm so thankful for that, because when I did get laid off, like, I had something to turn to immediately, like, to try. I mean, who knows if it was going to work, but so many of my colleagues that got laid off were like, wait, what do I do now? You know, I was at ESPN, like, I was at the pinnacle, and now what? You know, what do I do? And I think having different interests and different ways to diversify, like, just your career, I think is going to help you, but also might give you something, you know, to fall back on, or something, you know, it becomes more of your passion and something that you want to actually do as a career, and maybe you found that out along the way. So I think all of those things, but everything that was said here, I agree with.
Can I add one more thing?
No.
No.
No more things, Peter.
It's just it's advice I always give to folks who are looking for career advice, and it's like so simple. It's just save money. Like, no matter like how
That's
much
great
money you make,
advice.
save money, because there's an inverse correlation between the things that you want to do and the things that'll pay you. That's often the case, especially early on.
true.
And so the more you can like sock away, the more that when that like thing, the opportunity comes along, that you can actually make the decision to jump onto it, because you have money to actually float you like through that time. So yeah.
Another major key. Yeah, I'm like, how many years did we do Yo Stay Hungry with no money?
Yeah, exactly, right?
And now people like it, which is great.
I regretted how much money I just sort of like
Yeah, threw in the
wasted.
thing. 100%.
Well, my mom was is a financial advisor, so like that was also not an option. Like
There
not saving money was like.
We should have really been chilling with your mom.
Yeah.
There you go.
We would have been
Listen.
cooking, saving money.
Wendy's got lots of like life lessons for people.
We'd have been good to go.
Just real quick on that note, just like a really quick funny thing. In college, she's like, okay, I'm opening up a credit card for you. It only had like a $500 limit, and she said, I want you to use it, and you also have to pay it off every month. And I, for years, thought you had to pay off your credit card every month because she was just trying to help me build my credit. To get good credit, you have to obviously use credit and also not be in debt. So I literally didn't know. I feel like I'm a pretty smart person. The fact that I didn't know that you didn't have to pay
Shout
off
out
your
to
credit.
those Amex
But
skills.
now I do it because I'm like, oh, I don't want to pay that fee. I don't want to pay that interest.
That interest, that APR is nuts.
Yeah.
Cool. Some major keys from Sarita before we open it up to you all. Because these beautiful people have said yes, I always put the panelists on the spot. Your job here today is to do the numbers. When I say do the numbers, you have come here for a reason. Yes, you want to get the major keys. You want to hear my voice, which is amazing. But you have panelists who have taken the time out to be here with you all. So they have already said yes to you. So whatever you need to do, whether it's getting an email, whether it's following up, and when I say follow up, that means you actually have to follow up. Yes, major key, yeah. Yes. So whatever your goals were for today outside of hearing us run our mouths, make sure you accomplish that today. So if there are any questions.
Hi. I'm also a born and raised New Yorker. Shout out.
Eh,
I'm doing my master's in journalism with a focus on food and beverage. My question is for Peter. So you said about keeping your finger on or your eye on industry trends, and you also spoke about not doing what everyone else is doing. So how do you navigate reporting in an over-reported environment, whether it be here's the new vegan thing, and then also how do you keep your finger on the pulse of the trend before it's popularly trending?
Oh, wow. Yes. I mean, I wish I had
Out
that.
of the gate.
Yeah, I know.
Good luck.
Say your name, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Elba, E-L-B-A.
Elba. So sorry, Peter. So the reason I'm asking you all to say your name when you ask a question is because you want the panelists to actually remember you.
Yeah. I'm going to give an answer. Hopefully, it's not going to be entirely satisfying, but hopefully it is helpful in some way. I find that the best way is to do the work that maybe not everybody else is willing to do, and that would include really going to go to the smaller outlets. Really, go to the zines and go to the smaller podcasts. Go to and read the books. You know what I mean? Because not everybody's reading the books, and I think. That is actually the way that you'll start seeing things. Because, you just have to assume that, the big boys in food media, a lot of people, the big girls, the big publications, the big outlets, the big outlets, it's inclusive, yes. The big outlets, and that's what everybody's seeing, right? So what are you really going to be gaining, in terms of it's important to see that to know what everybody else is seeing, but in order to actually get that extra level, I think. Doing the graduate level studies, going deeper, right? So I always when we were doing work at the Museum of Food and Drink, I always would tell people okay, what is it we want to do? Now take it one level deeper, right? So and that could be instead of just talking about the pizza, it's then it's the culture of pizza, the history of the pizza, the economics of the pizza, the politics of the pizza. Take it one level further. What's the history of the politics of the pizza? Do you know what I mean? You just you can find the angle even on something as mundane as pizza if you just dig further, dig hard enough. And I think that involves doing more work than anybody else is willing to do on that thing. So I would say that's probably my general advice there.
Cool. Thank you. Another question.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here this evening. My name is Latifah. I'm from Harlem.
Yes, uptown.
And I have a new culinary series called Clean Skillet. We premiered probably about a couple of weeks ago. It's been a really great start. And my question is for Jamie. And I just want to know, do you have any advice on how to land a pitch meeting with Food Network?
Oh, gosh. If you find out, let me know.
Okay.
No, that's a great question. I tell people all the time, I am so thankful and lucky to do the work that I do with Food Network, hosting Food Network Obsessed, their podcast. But I am still, I'm still a contractor. I'm not on staff with them, so I'm still trying, to figure out a cool show concept that I could pitch them as well.
Okay,
so
okay.
I feel like I wish I could give you a better answer to that, but if you find out, also let me know.
That means we'll have to stay in communication.
Yes, please. But congratulations
Thank
on
you,
launching
thank
that. I mean,
you.
that's a ton of work, and I know a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So congratulations. I think already having a few episodes, that's a huge accomplishment. So keep it up.
I will also say, that we are always accepting pitches at Vice and Munchies. So hit me up. We don't have great budgets for anything, if I'm being honest. But we're always looking for new pitches and for new faces and people and all that stuff. So and for everybody, I'm sure you're gonna say this at the end, but I'll just give you my email. It's my name.
Wait, hold on. Y'all got your. All right, pens and pads, the notes on your phones, all these things open.
It's Faraday. So FARIDEH at vice.com.
One more time for the people in the back.
There you go.
FARIDEH at vice.com.
So we know they are accepting pitches. They need new team members. They need a whole
Bring it.
gang at Munchies.
Bring it. We love it.
Amazing.
Can I just add, and I think Sarita, probably you agree with this, in any pitch, the like pitch itself is like 10% of it. The swagger is like 90%.
Everything, yeah.
So like before you go into the pitch, like for real, like put on whatever music is gonna like pump you up. Go like this in the mirror and be like, you know what I mean? Like you have to be like, I am it, you know, like this is it. So yeah.
And I will say, I mean, I have worked with some, production companies that did pitch to places like Food Network and some other outlets. I think, the most important thing is, and this goes back to what Peter was saying earlier, I mean, you have to find something that kind of hasn't been done, yet, because it is a very saturated market across the board. So I think finding that cool thing that's unique to you and that you can really, own, I think is going to be really important. But yes, also own it.
I mean, don't be obnoxious with the
Yeah.
swagger. I just mean like you can exude the
confident.
confidence. Exactly, yeah.
Thank you. Is there another question?
I thought I'd be too short for this, but it worked.
Yes. Nailed it.
Hi, I'm Reina, also a native New Yorker.
Love this.
New York is in the building.
Exactly. Not just at a school, mid-career. But I am finding that, when I was on staff at publications, and I mostly worked in travel, but I've done a little bit on restaurants and want to do more. When I was on staff, I was so immersed in stuff, and it was sort of easy to come up with ideas. But as a freelancer, it's not. And, it's hard to get that immersed because you're not getting paid to do all that research, and you have other things you need to do. So how do you all get ideas? Do you have particular strategies for just idea generation and deciding what you want to cover?
I'll hop in there. I love to think about what's missing in the culture overall. Like, so yes, hip hop and food, but more granularly, I was like, there's no competition. Literally Googled hip hop and food. One article at Complex came out, maybe this is 2014, and we created Yo Stay Hungry because of that article. So we partner young people with coach chefs. We give them a lyric, we give them 4 hours, and we make magic happen. So just thinking about, all right, yes, hip hop and food. I can give you 10,000 rap lyrics right now, but specifically hip hop, food, young people. Specifically hip hop, food, young people, and adults. So it's like now an intergenerational conversation. This is before Snoop Dogg and like Martha Stewart were like kicking it. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like one way that I think about ideas, what's missing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, same. And like I also draw inspiration from going out to eat at different places, like watching different food shows. Although I can't lie to you. Like sometimes it's like my job. So then I'm like, when I am done working, I don't even want to look at food. People were like, "What do you cook at home?" And I'm like, I snack on cheese. I just stand there and I don't even want to cook. I don't want to look at food. Like I don't want to watch it. But yeah, like looking at cookbooks, looking at and just getting inspiration from there, and then that kind of like jogs memory. But like honestly, yeah, like I like working collaboratively with people, and even if they're like especially my friends who don't work in food, talking to them about like, what are you making? What are you watching? What are you doing? And then it's like, so just another perspective of like, what are you seeing and what do you think is like missing, kind of a thing. Yeah.
NYU also has a great food archive. So I'm an archivist, so all of the answers are in archives, all of them. They have a phenomenal food archive, like cookbooks, narrative, like literally a plethora of content where you can go and get ideas as well. Cool. Is there another question? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Y'all could just come on, make a lot. Come on down. Come on down.
Come on
The
down.
Price is Right.
Yes, right?
Ooh, it is like The Price is Right.
Come on down.
My name's Sarah, and I'm from New York. And my question is, what transformations have you seen in food media, and how have you adapted to them? Like, what is your advice for people who are interested in getting into the space? What's your advice on how to adapt?
Great question. Peter, I don't know why you're looking over here.
I mean, I can take that one, yeah. I think, when I was first starting out, like it was pretty traditional, right? Whether it was food media or even sports media or any media, it was, you watch it on the television. And I think now, you have so many different outlets. You have YouTube, you have TikTok, you have, a plethora of streaming options as well. So I think, just like kind of, consuming as much of that as possible and seeing where you kind of like fit into that. I don't know if anybody else feels.
Yeah, I think that like since I've been in the game, it's definitely like social media has really kind of come like just in your face, you know what I mean? Like with TikTok and Instagram and just all of that stuff. It's like, it's where people, and so, you know, I think that when I first started at Munchies, I remember it was really when like the tasty BuzzFeed stuff was popular, and it was like hands and pans, like all that kind of stuff, people cooking that way. And Munchies, like we were like, no, we're doing hosted stuff. We want to bring, like, tell people stories and have them talk and have hosts and people speaking like that. And and we're doing more long form videos, meaning like 10-minute long videos, you know? And even now, like, and now it's like now that's like out of fashion, you know? Like, I mean, yes, you want creators. I think it's all about creators and short form, like, you know, TikTok, 1-minute videos, Reels, 30 seconds, whatever it is. And really aiming at creators. So I think that for a lot of people, like actually, we had during COVID, in the very beginning of the pandemic, we had a show that was the Munchies Cook-Off that I judged, and our readers sent in videos of themselves cooking some of my recipes from my show. And we had them, anyways, it was like a cooking competition, and the winner got to, come to New York and get a tour of the test kitchen, blah, blah, blah. One of these winners, reached out after they came, and they were like, I want to start a YouTube channel. What do you recommend? And I was like, honestly, like, YouTube, you can do YouTube, but I was like, do TikTok. Like, it's going to be a lot easier and more manageable for you to do, or like just build up your social following on like Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, because they're really, those platforms are really leaning towards creators. I'm seeing, instead of brands even, Yeah. So you're in a good position if you're like not working for a brand right now. Like, be a creator and like put yourself out there and get on those platforms and make it happen.
Yeah, and put your personality out there too. I think 5 years ago, so many food accounts were just photos of food. You didn't know who was behind them. I think it's so important now for people to have that connection, because there's a million of those accounts. Like, why do we care? Like, make people care about watching you, giving you a chance, investing in you.
They want to hear your story. Did that answer? Was there more with that question or anything?
No, you answered it.
Okay.
Great.
I know, I'm like,
Missed the whole question.
She's like, that's not what I
I
want
feel like
to know.
halfway through my response, I kind of forgot what the question was.
And I would be remiss not to note, Pinterest is now, that's one of the big, that's just why
Videos,
it's there.
yeah.
I mean, we are starting this whole creator, the term in tech is ecosystem, which I don't know. But anyway, that's what we're kicking off right now. And it's a different kind of content, like, it's all like ideas and inspiration based. So I'm hoping that's my goal with Pinterest, and that is really to make it a more positive place for content where you're really it's all about inspiring each other.
So I also said solve a problem. Peter just told you Pinterest is now hopping in the video game. If you are creating content, we know stuff is on Instagram, TikTok, etc. Might want to pull up to Pinterest to make Peter's job a little bit easier. Is there another question? Yes. Question wars.
Hi, good evening. My name is Yvonne. I'm from the Bronx. My question is, obviously social media is a big part of the story, but I'm just wondering from each of your perspectives, because you all have diverse backgrounds of how you arrived at your career, what do you think, what qualities or what strengths should people possess to have longevity in food media? So, like, is it, be good at a lot of different things? Is it master one thing, get really good at that, become an expert at that, and then pivot into something else? Because I think social media is great, but I think, to have longevity, something has to be consistent. And so I'm just wondering, from your point of view, like, how do you all see that? And Sarita, you too, I'm curious what you.
I already got an answer for you right now.
Boom, there, I love
Boom.
it. Go ahead.
Jessica B. Harris. You want to talk about longevity? She's been in the game a long time and has stayed consistently relevant in the game. So I would just say, look at the people like that and follow the model. Like, it's literally like copy and paste. I don't know if she's on social. I'm sure Jessica B. Harris is not creating TikTok videos.
Yeah. So, since Jessica's a dear friend of mine, I'll give a little context with her. So Jessica, Dr. Jessica B. Harris.
Doctor, yes.
Has been writing for over 4 decades about the foods of the African diaspora. And so flashback 40 some years, who was writing about that? Nobody
one.
was. So that's a great example of going to the negative space and telling those stories. And the thing was, yeah, she's getting her due recognition now,
flowers.
but those first couple of decades were, she did it and kind of a void, and so I think it can take time, but now, who is the expert on this? It is Dr. Jessica B. Harris, right? And so yeah, that's the context on her. I love her.
I think also you just need to be flexible. When you're on these things change every day. There's something new and different. And yeah, learning one thing is really good, and learning all the things is really good. But then just being flexible in your approach to stuff and knowing that it's working this week and then next week it's not going to. So then just figuring out well, how can I change that to how can I make this work instead? So just being a little bit flexible and kind of, agile with that, I guess.
And who do you want to be inside of the space, right? Do you want to be doing multiple things? Like Sarita is in food and Lego and archiving, but the foundation is primarily Black people, hip hop. Cool. You know what I'm saying? So you also get to determine, do you want to stay in one space? Do you want to do 9,000 things? And what also works for you in relation to that?
Yeah. And the hustle, it's
Correct.
It's a lot of work. What Peter said earlier. It's if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So don't be afraid to just put in the work. And some days are going to be really, and other days are going to be amazing. And just kind of figuring out how to navigate that and kind of keep as much of an even keel as you can, but continuing to believe, I guess, in the process that you're going to be able to continue doing that.
Yeah, and I'll say, I think many people have tried to come up with the formula for what makes amazing content on social media, and nobody has succeeded at doing that. And so, because if you could, then everybody would be doing it, right? Correct. And so I think it is about really dedication and hard work and adapting, trying new things. I would say the one common thread through all content that seems to succeed is that the creators are authentic to themselves. They're not trying to be something they're not. And then specifically, I would say Pinterest. It's what seems to do well is that overlap of entertaining but also inspiring, useful content. And so, but yeah, I think it's unfortunately it's hard to really think about a particular formula for this.
And also, don't force it. I think all of our panelists will agree. If you are not outgoing, don't be outgoing. Because we will see it. We will see it. So figure out what are the things that are authentically you. Hey, I'm a little shy. I'm a little nerdy. I'm a little this. I'm a little that. And that makes you. So be that. You will be a rock star at that. So yeah, do that. Are there any other questions? Yep. Come on down.
Okay. Hi.
Hey.
Nice to meet you. Thank you guys for this panel, by the way. It was super awesome. My name is Lawrence. I'm from California, but I live in Brooklyn now. Heck yeah. So I know you guys touched on some of the rough parts of switching careers and doing what you want. I think, Jamie, you just answered it in your last question, but I think me and I think a lot of people tend to focus on the success part of the success story. So I just want to know if you guys have any stories or personal situations that you had when making this transition that was, honestly pretty rough, and how you managed to get out of that, I guess.
You want failure stories? We have a list.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, I touched on it briefly. I kind of glossed over it a little bit, but getting laid off from ESPN was probably, now not the hardest day of my life, but at the time it was probably the worst day of my life. Working so hard at something for 15 years and finally getting to a place like ESPN, you feel you're on top of the world and you've kind of made it, I guess. And that was really devastating. It was a huge blow to your ego, first of all, but also just kind of this question of what am I gonna do now? And I think there were a lot of tears that day, a lot. There were some drinks shared with friends that night.
One or two.
During the tears, yes, in conjunction with all that. But, the next day I woke up and was like, all right, what's next? Like, definitely have time to mourn whatever that failure is, but also, pick yourself up and figure out how to move on. And for me, that meant, trying something new. And I'm still working at that every single day. Like I was, when Latifah asked earlier, like if, how you get in at Food Network, like I would love to be doing more things with them. And I hope I will. And I'm working at that every single day. What? Oh, thank
Come on with
you.
the positive energy.
Gosh, thanks guys. But yeah, I think, it's just keep at it, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so when I left behind a pretty lucrative job to start the Museum of Food and Drink, and it was starting a nonprofit from scratch with no money and just this idea. And I mean, you name it. Like I strained relationships with my family. My dad disowned me. We got back. We're back on good terms, but that was hard. Then I strained relationships with my significant other, who's now my wife. I strained relationships with my friends. I tapped all of my savings, drained all of that. There are a lot of times when the project was pretty much just doggy paddling from failure. And I think in many alternate universes, this thing would have failed. But I'd say it's interesting what happens when you think of failure as not an option. You dig deep, and then you dig even deeper, and you dig into places that you just didn't even know were there, and you just keep pushing. And I'd say that's, yeah. I mean, sometimes you do it. I hate to even advise this because it's also a really hard place to be. You almost don't want to be in that place, but finding that way to have that kind of fire under your butt is it's amazing what it will what you can accomplish with that. So I don't. It's kind of a weird bit of advice, but it's just my personal example. And I just kind of dug down and yeah, things ended up working out, but it was definitely really hard.
Yeah. And I will say, when I got laid off, I didn't realize it at the time. I was super burned out, actually, and it took somebody taking that job away from me to realize that. And I don't make as much money, not even close to what I did at ESPN, but I'm so much happier. It was a grind, and I loved it while I was there, but I'm so much happier, even though, there's some months where I'm I don't know how we're gonna pay rent. But other months are great, and I think overall, I'm a lot happier doing what I'm super passionate about, so.
Yeah, I remember it was this one year for Yo Stay Hungry. I was like, we're gonna go on tour. We're gonna do DC, New York, Philly, Jersey, and we did a middle school in New York and a high school competition in New York. Who had the money for this? I was like, yeah, I want to do it. I had a crew of people who said yes, always grateful for the team. And I would say we failed. 100% failures, right? But I think what made the failures feel like we didn't fail everything was literally having the team, right? So people are often like, Sarita, how you are able to do all 479 things? It starts and ends with the team. Shout out to my best friends, Ash, she's here, she's a part of the team. There are so many people that you can bring in because being on tour is we needed a DJ for every city. How are we gonna get food? We have the audacity to give out scholarships. And more importantly, I'm committing to these young people, you all are gonna have coach chefs rocking with you to make a dish, right? And so the chefs might range from Michelin star chefs to people who are learning how to cook on their own. What happens when a chef doesn't show up? I'm in the back, in every group chat, I need chefs in DC, go. You know what I'm saying? So again, it was a failure, lost a lot of money, did it with no money, made a lot of requests. I'm also queen of making requests of people. That's why you also need another major key, Stay in contact with people when you don't need them. Hey, how are you? Hey, are you alive? Hey, I saw a dog that looks like yours. How's your dog doing? Like, actually be interested in people's lives, because over time, if you need them, they won't be looking at you crazy like, I don't even talk to you. Why are you reaching out to me? If you actually have a relationship. Similar to like Peter. I had reached out to Peter 9,000 years ago. I think maybe when you had just started the museum. Peter ended up being a judge for Yo Stay Hungry the year before we failed. So, you know, good thanks. Shout out to failures. Also, so have a team, because they won't make the failures feel like you are losing your life.
And don't be afraid to sometimes call in those favors. You know,
100%.
the answer is always no unless you ask. So
100%.
you know, you be okay with the answer maybe being no, but also don't be afraid to ask for favors, if you ask for help if you need it.
100%. I'm always like, hurry up with the no's so we can get to the yes. Like, let's go, give me all the no's. You over there, you're the yes, you're the 1,000th person that I've asked. Yes.
You only need
Come
one.
on down. You only need one, yes. That could change the game for you. So hopefully that answers your question.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lawrence. What?
No. It's therapy.
I would like to say thank you. Y'all clap it up for the panelists one time.
Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Clap it up for yourselves one time.
Good questions, too.
Excellent questions. Thank you for the Center for Communication for having us. Max, your whole team, shout out to y'all. Yeah, now is the time to leave with your phones filled with emails, etc. Yeah, thank y'all for coming out. Appreciate y'all.